Hey, what if your next grocery run felt like a treasure hunt, except half the treasure is already missing? Yeah, that's happening. Shelves that were once stocked with your go-to snacks, everyday essentials, and guilty pleasures are suddenly empty. And we're not just talking about the usual suspects like eggs and toilet paper. These are some seriously unexpected items that are vanishing from stores right now in March of 2025. So what's disappearing, and more importantly, why? Well, buckle up, because some of these will definitely surprise you. Number 10, orange juice. Waking up on a groggy Monday morning, you shuffle into the kitchen, you open the fridge, and reach for your usual glass of OJ, only to find an empty spot where it should be. Not because you forgot to buy it, because there isn't any left to buy. So what's going on? Well, the culprit is a nasty disease called citrus greening, a bacterial infection that's been plaguing orange groves for years. This disease slowly kills citrus trees, making them produce smaller, bitter fruit until they eventually stop bearing fruit altogether. The worst part? There's no cure. Once a grove is infected, it's just a ticking time bomb. On top of that, Mother Nature hasn't exactly been kind to citrus farmers. Extreme weather events, from unexpected frosts to intense hurricanes, have wiped out entire harvests in Florida, the U.S.'s biggest orange-producing state. Even Brazil, the world's largest orange juice exporter, has struggled with droughts that have slashed production. The result? A perfect storm of low supply, skyrocketing prices, and bare shelves. Some brands are even watering down their juice or mixing in other fruits to stretch their supply. If you're an OJ lover, it might be time to start looking for alternatives, unless you're ready to pay premium prices for your morning sip. Number 9, instant coffee. Now, there's nothing worse than rolling out of bed, groggy and half awake, only to realize that your trusty jar of instant coffee is now nowhere to be found. You check the pantry, nothing. You head to the grocery store, you expect to grab a quick refill, but the shelves are empty. The reality sinks in. Instant coffee is disappearing, and caffeine lovers, we're in trouble. So what's going on? The world's instant coffee supply is taking a serious hit, thanks to a brutal combination of bad coffee bean harvests and skyrocketing demand. The biggest issue stems from South America, particularly Brazil and Colombia, two of the world's largest coffee producers. These regions have been dealing with severe droughts, unexpected frosts, and some shifting climate patterns that have all led to smaller coffee bean harvests. Less coffee being produced means fewer beans making their way to the factory that processes it into instant coffee granules. At the same time, demand for instant coffee is higher than ever. In recent years, more and more people have been ditching expensive cafe drinks in favor of just making coffee at home. With inflation making everything pricier, a $5 latte from a coffee shop just isn't as appealing when a jar of instant coffee can last weeks. But with demand increasing and supply shrinking, there's a growing imbalance, which leads to shortages and rising prices. Even the manufacturing process itself is causing delays. Instant coffee production isn't as simple as grinding beans. It involves complex freeze-drying and spray-drying methods that require specialized equipment and factories. With supply chain disruptions affecting industries worldwide, some manufacturers are struggling to keep up. Add in shipping delays and rising transport costs, and suddenly getting your hands on a jar of instant coffee isn't so easy. So what does this mean for your morning caffeine fix? Well, for starters, expect prices to go up. Instant coffee, which was once the budget-friendly alternative to a fancy brew, may soon be nearly as expensive as fresh beans. Some brands might cut back on variety, meaning fewer options on the shelves. And in the worst-case scenario, you may find yourself facing empty coffee aisles altogether. If you're an instant coffee drinker, now may be the time to stock up before supplies dwindle even further. Or you could start considering alternatives, drip coffee, espresso, or even the dreaded decaf. Ugh. Either way, your coffee routine is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Number 8, canned tuna. Yeah, head over to the grocery store to grab a few cans of tuna, but you find that the shelves are empty and all you have left are overpriced leftovers. What's going on? Canned tuna is disappearing, and no, it's not a random shortage. One major reason for this shortage is overfishing. Tuna has been one of the world's most consumed fish for decades, but the demand has far outpaced sustainable fishing practices. In response, governments and environmental organizations have tightened fishing regulations to protect dwindling fish populations, especially species like yellowfin and big-eyed tuna, which are at risk of depletion. Now, while these restrictions are great for preserving marine ecosystems, that also means less tuna is being caught and processed for stores. On top of that, the fishing industry is dealing with rising fuel costs and supply chain issues. Many fishing vessels rely on diesel fuel to power their long-haul journeys across the ocean. And with fuel prices climbing, some companies have cut back on operations or increased their prices to compensate. Fewer fishing trips mean fewer tuna catches, which again leads to shortages on store shelves. Even if there were enough tuna to meet the demand, another issue is making things worse: an aluminum shortage. Now, you might not think much about the can that your tuna comes in, but aluminum prices have been rising due to global supply chain disruptions. high energy cost, and increased demand for metal in other industries. Now, some tuna brands are struggling to secure enough cans for packaging, causing delays and further limiting supply. For consumers, that means higher prices, fewer options, and possible substitutes like mackerel or sardines sneaking into cans. If tuna's your go-to protein, now might be the time to stock up or explore alternatives, because those convenient little cans may not be so easy to find for much longer. Number 7, peanut butter. Now, you walk down the grocery aisle, you're craving a classic peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but when you get to the peanut butter section, you stop in shock. Empty shelves, just a few overpriced jars, and a sad little out-of-stock sign where your favorite brand used to be. Peanut butter is vanishing, and if you're a PB lover, this is the worst kind of crisis. So what's happening? The problem starts at the very root, a massive drought in key peanut-producing states like Georgia, Texas, and Alabama. These states grow the majority of the U.S.'s peanuts, but extreme heat waves and below-average rainfall have devastated crops. Peanuts need just the right amount of moisture to grow properly, and when conditions are too dry, yields plummet. Some farmers have even abandoned peanut farming altogether in favor of crops that are easier to maintain in unpredictable weather. The result? Fewer peanuts, equaling fewer jars of peanut butter. And that's not the only issue. Even the peanuts that do make it through harvest season are costing more to produce due to rising fertilizer and fuel prices. Farmers are spending more just to keep their crops alive, and that cost trickles down to manufacturers and eventually to your grocery bill. Some brands are shrinking their jars while keeping prices the same, while others are just simply charging more for the same amount. Either way, peanut butter is becoming less affordable and harder to find. So if you're a diehard peanut butter fan, you might notice fewer varieties on the shelves. Some companies are going to pause production on specialty flavors and focus only on their best-selling products. Others are going to experiment with peanut substitutes, so don't be surprised if you start seeing more almond butter, sunflower seed butter, or even soy-based spreads as alternatives. The peanut butter crisis isn't just bad news for sandwich lovers, it's a big problem for schools, food banks, and families that rely on it as a cheap protein-packed staple. If conditions don't improve, peanut butter could go from an everyday grocery to a rare, high-priced indulgence. So if you spot your favorite brand in stock, you might want to grab an extra jar before it's gone. Number 6, packaged salad kits. Now, you're trying to eat healthier, so you head to the grocery store. You're looking to get one of those prepackaged salad kits, the ones with the crisp lettuce, the crunchy toppings, and delicious dressing all ready to go. But when you get to the produce aisle, there's barely anything left. The few remaining kits look sad and wilted, and the price tags have now suddenly jumped. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Packaged salad kits are disappearing, and your easy weeknight salads might be in trouble. The biggest issue? Lettuce and leafy greens have been hit hard by disease outbreaks. In recent years, multiple strains of plant-killing bacteria have spread through farms in California and Arizona, the two states that produce more than 90% of the country's lettuce supply. These outbreaks have led to massive crop failures, forcing farms to destroy entire fields of romaine, iceberg, and spinach before they ever even reach store shelves. And when there's less lettuce available, that means fewer salad kits for shoppers. On top of that, water shortages are forcing farms to scale back production. Lettuce is a water-intensive crop, and with ongoing droughts in key growing regions, some farmers are shifting to more drought-resistant crops instead. Many farms simply can't afford to keep growing leafy greens in a time when water is scarce and expensive. And the result? Packaged salads are getting harder to find, and when they do show up, they cost more. Brands that used to offer a dozen different salad varieties might now only have one or two options, and prices for those pre-cut greens are going up quick. Some stores limit stock to prevent waste, while others are just simply running out before the end of the day. So if you're a fan of the grab-and-go salad life, you may need to start making your own from scratch, buying full heads of lettuce, washing and chopping them yourselves, and hunting down individual toppings. It's more work, sure, but at least you don't have to fight for the last overpriced Caesar kit on the shelf. Yeah, maybe it's more work, but at least you won't have to fight for the last overpriced Caesar kit on the shelf. Or you could just start embracing the no salad lifestyle, like me, because at this rate, leafy greens might become the new luxury food. Number 5, granola bars. Now, all right, you're in need of a quick on-the-go snack, so you head to the aisle where your favorite granola bars are usually stocked. But instead of the usual variety of flavors and brands, you find, well, nothing. Maybe a few crushed, overpriced boxes shoved to the back of the shelf, but certainly not your go-to chocolate chip or peanut butter bars. What's happening? Well, granola bars, one of the easiest, more convenient snacks out there, are suddenly becoming harder to find. The main culprit? A massive oat shortage. Oats are one of the key ingredients in most granola bars, and recent bad harvests in the US and Canada have sent oat production in a downward spiral. Unpredictable weather, including extreme droughts in some areas and heavy rains in others, has slashed oat yields, making it harder for food manufacturers to get the supply that they need. And when oat prices rise, the cost of oat-based products like granola bars, oatmeal, and cereals, well, it all goes up too. But that's not the only problem. Supply chain disruptions are making key granola bar ingredients harder to source. Nuts, chocolate, honey, all three staples found in most granola bars have all been affected by different global crises. Now, almonds and peanuts have been hit by droughts in major producing areas, chocolate prices are soaring due to cocoa bean shortages in West Africa, and even honey supplies are struggling because of declining bee populations. With these ingredients becoming more expensive and harder to source, granola bar manufacturers are having to cut production, raise prices, or in some cases, stop making certain flavors altogether. Even packaging is an issue, with ongoing supply chain problems affecting everything from plastic wrappers to cardboard boxes. Some companies can't keep up with production, even if they do have the ingredients. This means fewer granola bars being shipped to stores and longer waits for restocks. For snackers everywhere, this means higher prices, fewer flavor options, and possible shortages. If granola bars are your go-to snack, well, now might be the time to stock up. Or at least look for an alternative snack, because at this rate, those once cheap and convenient bars are now going to start feeling like a luxury. Number 4, Dijon mustard. You're making a sandwich, a burger, or maybe even a fancy salad dressing, and you reach for your trusty Dijon mustard, only to find the bottle nearly empty. No problem, you think. You'll just go to the store and grab a new one, but when you get to the condiment aisle, there's no Dijon in sight. The regular yellow mustard might still be hanging around, but that smooth, tangy, and slightly spicy goodness, it's nowhere to be found. It's not just bad luck. Dijon mustard has been disappearing from shelves for a while now, and the shortage is still hitting hard in 2025. The problem started back in 2022, when a mustard seed shortage rocked both France and Canada, the two biggest suppliers of Dijon mustard seeds in the world. In France, where Dijon is, extreme heat waves dried up crops, reducing harvests by more than 50% in some areas. In Canada, unpredictable weather and supply chain disruptions worsened the crisis, making it harder for mustard producers to get the seeds that they need. Even now, the supply chain hasn't really fully bounced back. Mustard seeds take time to grow, and many farmers have switched to other more profitable crops to avoid another disastrous year. Now, with fewer farmers planting mustard, production levels are still below normal, which means less Dijon mustard is being made, and what little supply is available is being sold at much higher prices. So if you're lucky enough to find a bottle of Dijon on the shelf, expect to pay a premium. Some brands are quietly shrinking bottle sizes while keeping prices the same, while others are importing Dijon from alternative sources, although purists will tell you that nothing quite tastes like the real deal from France. If you're a Dijon lover, now might be the time to ration your supply or start experimenting with substitutes like whole grain mustard or a spicy brown mustard. Otherwise, you might find yourself facing the tragedy of a Dijon-less kitchen. And let's be real, a ham and cheese sandwich just isn't the same without that bold and creamy kick. Number 3, frozen French fries. All right, you're craving some crispy golden French fries, so you head to the frozen food aisle, expecting to grab a big bag of your favorite brand, but instead of a fully stocked freezer, you just find empty shelves. Maybe a few lonely bags of sweet potato fries and a price tag that makes you do a double take. That's right, frozen fries are vanishing, and your late night snack routine, now it's in serious trouble. So what's going on? Well, the biggest issue is the major potato shortage. Over the past couple of years, potato crops have been hit by unpredictable weather. Droughts, extreme heat, and even unexpected frosts all damaged harvests in Idaho, Canada, and Europe, some of the world's biggest potato growing regions. Now, potatoes might seem like a tough, resilient crop, but they actually need the right balance of moisture and temperature to grow properly. When the weather goes nuts, well, yields drop, sizes shrink, and quality suffers. And here's where things get even more complicated. Fast food chains are fighting for the limited supply. Big-name restaurants like McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's, well, they all buy up massive amounts of frozen fries before they even hit grocery store freezers. With the potato shortage in full swing, these fast food giants are outbidding grocery stores to secure their supply, meaning less product makes it to regular shoppers. Some countries have already seen fast food fry shortages in recent years, and now grocery store shelves are taking a hit too. Even the fries that do make it to stores aren't immune to inflation. Potato prices are rising, transportation costs are up, and manufacturers are dealing with supply chain issues that make it more expensive to process, package, and distribute frozen fries, meaning higher prices for consumers. That is when you can find them. Some brands are even shrinking their bag sizes while keeping the prices the same. So what does that mean for a fry lover? Well, stock up while you can, or get ready to start making fries from scratch. Buying whole potatoes and air frying them yourself might be the best way to satisfy your fry craving without breaking the bank. And if you think about switching to a sweet potato fry, tater tots, or even zucchini fries, well, I suppose desperate times call for desperate measures. Number 2, Sriracha hot sauce. You're about to add that perfect spicy kick to your noodles, tacos, or eggs, and you reach for your bottle of Sriracha hot sauce. But instead of that familiar red bottle with the green cap, all you see is a little empty spot on the shelf and a disappointing out-of-stock tag. Sriracha is going missing from grocery stores, and if you haven't been hoarding bottles, you might be out of luck. The issue? An ongoing chili pepper shortage, specifically the red jalapenos, that gives Sriracha its signature flavor. These peppers are notoriously difficult to grow in large quantities, and they require just the right mix of sun, heat, and water. But unfortunately, in recent years, extreme droughts, heat waves, and unpredictable weather patterns have wiped out chili crops across California, Mexico, and other major growing regions. Farmers have struggled to produce enough peppers to keep up with demand, and that means fewer fresh chilies making their way to Huifeng Foods, the company behind the iconic Sriracha brand. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because the Sriracha crisis actually started in 2022, when production was severely cut due to pepper shortages. At one point, bottles of Sriracha were selling for insane resale prices online, going for $50 or more. While supply slowly trickled back down in some areas, it still hasn't fully recovered, and demand far outweighs supply. Even if Sriracha does make a comeback, you can expect higher prices and possible rationing. Some stores have been limiting customers to just one bottle per purchase to prevent people from stockpiling. Meanwhile, restaurants that rely on Sriracha are scrambling for alternatives, and diehard fans are experimenting with DIY versions or just switching to other hot sauces. If you can't get your hands on Sriracha, don't panic just yet. Other brands like Cholula, Tabasco, and Sambal Olek can still bring the heat, even if they don't have that same garlicky, tangy kick. But if you're a true Sriracha loyalist, you might want to start rationing your stash, because this spicy crisis, it ain't over yet. And number 1, sugar. You head to the baking aisle to grab a bag of sugar, maybe for your morning coffee, some weekend baking, or just to keep in the pantry. But instead of neatly stacked bags, you find half-empty shelves and a price tag that makes you do a double take. That's right, sugar is becoming harder to find. And when you do find it, it's getting a whole lot more expensive. So what's behind this sweet crisis? Well, it all starts with poor sugarcane harvests around the world. Major sugar-producing countries like India, Brazil, and Thailand have been struggling with extreme weather, droughts, heavy rains, and unpredictable temperatures. All of this has led to lower-than-expected sugar yields. Sugarcane is a slow-growing, water-intensive crop, and when growing conditions aren't just right, well, the harvest suffers. Some regions have seen their lowest sugar production in years, putting a strain on global supply. At the same time, supply chain disruptions and rising production costs are making it harder and more expensive to refine and transport sugar. Fuel prices, labor shortages, and international shipping delays are all adding to the problem, making it tough for grocery stores to keep their sugar aisles fully stocked. And when supply is low but demand remains high, prices skyrocket. But here's where things get even trickier. The food industry is eating up most of the available supply. Sugar's not a household staple. It's used in everything, from sodas and candy to baked goods and processed foods. With companies scrambling to secure their sugar supply, grocery store shelves are left with less inventory, higher prices, and more frequent shortages. Some manufacturers are even cutting back on production or reformulating recipes to use alternative sweeteners like high fructose corn syrup, which means some of your favorite treats might start tasting a little different. If sugar prices keep rising, we could see a ripple effect across the food industry. Expect higher prices on everything, from cookies and ice cream to soda and breakfast cereals. And if things don't improve soon, sugar rationing, like we saw during past shortages, can become a real possibility. For now, if you rely on sugar for baking or your daily cup of coffee, it may be time to stock up while you still can. Because if this trend continues, your sweet tooth could start costing you a lot more. If your last grocery trip felt more like a treasure hunt than a shopping run, you're not alone. From orange juice and peanut butter to frozen fries and Sriracha, some of our favorite staples are disappearing quickly. And when they do show up, they come with higher price tags or smaller packages. Have you noticed any of these missing from your local stores? Or maybe something else has mysteriously vanished? Well, let us know, because at this rate, who knows what's next?